ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WAGERWIRE. WAGERWIRE is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and super stoked, excited, fired up. Happy birthday to Mr. Emil Kulskar. You know, every day I get up in the morning, when my feet hit the ground, it's called the gift. That's why they call it the present. And we got 24 hours to make a difference. And today, I hope to make a difference in someone's life here. And today, I get to have Andrew McInnis on his usual spot on Tuesday morning, getting ready to head to right behind my shoulder, the Garden. The Garden, where it cost $1,000 just to enter the building on Thursday. The headline, Canada versus USA rematch, winner take all. I was born at night, not last night. I can read the market, and there's a lot to talk about here. So, and at 10:50, the debut of the NCAA Insiders 4 Men in a Box midweek baseball show. We've been doing it for 3 years now. Opening weekend was last weekend, this past weekend. Now we're going to do a midday so we can get the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games and get ready when they come back on Friday for Friday Night Lights and so on. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith while you're there. Head back to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Place an order today. You could be grilling by Thursday or Friday. So without further ado, Mr. Andrew McInnis. What's up, Chip?
What's up, Jeff? I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm so excited that I actually made some plans, some change of plans, because I know how excited I'm going to be there. And so I am not flying out at 8 a.m. anymore on Friday. I am now flying out on Saturday, but I am arriving on Thursday. So unless there's any weather problems and I somehow don't get to the game, we might be out all night long on Thursday night, depending on the results. So we'll see. But I'm super excited. And last night, looking at the fact that I would have had to be at Logan Airport at 6:30 in the morning after a night of partying, we called an audible on that one, switched it over to Saturday departure, and looking forward to a really fun few days at the Garden.
Well, the NHL got it right. And I think the winner of Thursday's game will have the bragging rights for 1 year. 1 year, because next year is an Olympic year, while the losers will be salty and say, hey, you can hold the round robin 4 nations tournament while we go and get the gold next year. But we talked about it on my show, on your show. You could have easily went to the window pre-flop and grabbed USA plus 165, Canada plus 170, or vice versa, wherever you're shopping. Hope that they meet. Guarantee yourself about 65, 70 cents and enjoy tomorrow's game.
Absolutely, especially after, like you said, after the early parts of the round robin, after USA beat Canada. And the funny thing is, you look at Finland, that game against Finland yesterday, some books, Jeff, were showing like minus 450, minus 400 for a hockey game. I understand it's international play. It's Canada versus Finland, win and go on. But let's not forget about the ending to that game. And that does cause some concern. The fact that it's 4-0 for so long and the game ends, luckily 5-3, but it was 4-3 for about 10 seconds. That was a little bit sweaty. And looking at the future market, like you said, Canada definitely kind of dropped before that game, even though they were minus 400 to make the finals with that win over Finland. So very interesting. And of course, we have all kinds of reports coming out about resting, load management, injuries, and then now apparently a hospital trip at Mass General. A lot going on right now in this tournament.
Yeah, and Charlie McAvoy, after the game, went to Mass General. I guess an infection from an injury. He's fine. Unsure if he's going to play on Thursday. The Kachuk brothers, they're dropping like flies here on the U.S. side. It was no pun intended, a no-win situation for them last night. They lose 2-1. They were already in the game Thursday. A lot to think about here because the start and stop, meaning, hey, we can flip the switch for Thursday. We know this place is going to be electric. When they faced off on Saturday, the first 9 seconds, there were 3 fights.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was watching the WWE, if I was watching the movie Slapshot, or was this choreographed? Not 1, but 2. When I saw the third fight, Andrew, I thought I was watching the replay. It was bedlam.
The funny thing about the third fight, that was obviously, the probably the most, I guess we could say, unfair matchup. And I think that JT Miller was trying to challenge somebody else. I think he was trying to challenge Anthony Cirelli. And then Pareko said, your gloves are already off. You got to pick me. He had no choice. Miller was just standing there with his gloves off. And, part of me as a fan didn't like the fact that he got the 2-minute instigator, because I knew that if Canada scored on the power play, I was happy they didn't, honestly, because you wouldn't have heard the end of it. But the thing is, referees eventually are going to hand out instigators unless it's very, very clear cut that both guys took their gloves off at the same time. Obviously the whole world knows with those 2 Kachuk brothers. Look, if I was an American and I was cheering for America hockey, I would love it. I would think it's hilarious that they're literally the real life Bash Bros. They look exactly like the Bash Brothers. They go to the penalty box together. They're high-fiving. They're talking about it in their group chat. They're planning on these fights. But I think that when I look at that game, it's not like Canada wants to back down, but they played a little bit into the US's game, I found. And so I'm hoping that when you look at some of the line changes that were made, I don't think Reinhart should have been playing with McDavid. I don't think Mitch Marner should have been playing with McDavid. It took until the last game of the round robin for John Cooper to find the right guy to play with Connor McDavid. And you got, now a Mark Stone, who is a 200-foot player. He's a veteran player, might not have the speed, but he has the IQ. He doesn't mind the physicality. And then, of course, next to them, having Braden Point, who's used to playing center, and he's a fast guy, not afraid of any physicality, good forechecking. It's interesting to see that they wait until last minute to make those changes. But I'm sure you know what I mean, Jeff. Some players, they need a special kind of player to play with them. Everybody always jokes around that with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the average person off the street could play on a line with Sidney Crosby and get a point a night. But at the end of the day, it does take some talent to be able to keep up with those great players.
There's so much to talk about on Thursday's game. The opening number, USA -115, Canada -105 with a 5.5, by the way. If you played first period overs throughout the whole tournament, congratulations, you're undefeated. If you played the full game overs in every game, you're on the plus side here, where last night's did not come through. You talked about the Canada game yesterday. It was funny because they were trying to keep us out. -455. I saw some at some shops. Canada had to win this game in regulation. That was -255. Okay,
Yeah.
So now let's get creative. Canada's team total 4.5 juiced under -180, and we talk about that's getting greedy to get to 5 or better. And their opponent yesterday, 2.5 juiced under -180 as well. So again, getting greedy on the Finland side. Here's the funny, as you said, 4-0 late third period, 4-1, 4-2. As you read the market, that was supposed to be the final score, 4-2. So anyone that's sitting there that's got the puck line for Canada, now you start to sweat a little, right? Then all of a sudden it's 4-3, and you're like, oh my God, you're shaking, you're lighting up a cigarette, you're like, oh my God, I just put the house. And then, as you said, 10 seconds later, empty net, 5-3. Thanks for playing. But my point is here, this game opened up on Thursday at a 5.5. Okay? Now, if the U.S. gets out early, they're telling us first 1-3 wins this game. They'll be able to play that physical, in the corner, dumping. However, they will slow down Canada. But here's the other side. If Canada gets out early, now USA has to adjust to that up and down pace, and it's almost like they don't want to do that.
It's something we talk a lot about during the season, Jeff, like on the show, whether it be Ottawa and Toronto, whether it be Boston and New York, whoever it might be, that played a game on a Thursday night and then they're playing again on a Saturday. They played on a Saturday and they're playing again on a Tuesday. And something that I've often talked about, and you kind of spoke about it with me off air about the actual side part of the things, but I'm talking about the total part of things. Sometimes you do see if the first one went under, the second one goes over. The first one went over, the second one goes under. And I think that a lot of times it's, first of all, you see these guys with the iPads on the bench. They're not only watching film after the game is over, they're watching film while the game is still going on right in front of their very eyes. They're watching film. So they make adjustments. They make line combo adjustments. And there's the empty net goal factor. And, Jeff, I think that if you were to ask me to set the over-under on fights in this game, I would set it at a half juice to the over, because I don't think there's not going to be 3 fights tomorrow again, or Thursday, but the physicality is still going to be there. And for a game that had 3 fights, there weren't that many penalties. I have a feeling we might see a few penalties, and just like the Kansas City and the Bills game, and whenever the Kansas City Chiefs were playing in some big games, nobody wants the referees to control the game. But if the players give them the opportunity to make a call and they're checking from behind, being physical, tripping, slashing, whatever it might be, I have a feeling, unfortunately, unlike what we saw at the Bell Center, the referees might be involved a bit more. and it's shaded to the under right now with this total at 5.5. So, like you said, and I don't know if you saw, I was getting people going on X there saying, well, USA got the lead and then they just parked the bus like a soccer team, but it's what they did. I mean, it was clear to me that USA really, they weren't trying to score anymore after they had a 2-goal lead on Team Canada. That was it. The game was over. It was a wrap, or a 1-goal lead. They scored the empty net goal. And as you say, thanks for playing. I'm curious if teams are going to need more than 2 or 3 goals this time around to win this game.
Flashbacks of the New Jersey Devils with Martin Brodeur and the trap. You get behind from them, you might as well just shut the game up because you're not going to win. Now, listen, we have a lot of people tuning in here on X, and I'm going to say the majority of them don't know this. The USA versus Canada here, the one absolute advantage the USA, quote unquote, has is at goaltending. Hellebuck versus Jordan Binnington. I'm going to enlighten everyone that wants to say this is a huge, huge edge here come Thursday night. Bruins versus the Blues. Game 7, right behind my shoulder. There was a gentleman behind the pipes named Jordan Binnington, who not only stole the show, won the Stanley Cup here in Boston in the Game 7, winner take all here. So I know Hellebuck on paper has the edge. Jordan has now been here in this building behind these pipes. So before everyone runs and takes a second mortgage on USA because of the Hellebuck factor, you might want to think this one over twice.
It's a really good point. And I think that has honestly been, and I will say as a fan and someone that's been trying to look at this from the outside perspective, I've been saying this since the beginning of the tournament, before the loss on Saturday, before the game played on Saturday. How much will big game experience go into account on Thursday? How much will it matter that 5 of the 6 defensemen for Team Canada playing on Thursday have a Stanley Cup ring? That more than 2/3 of the roster has been to a Stanley Cup final. How much does that matter? How much does that impact things? Connor Hellebuck, like you said, great performance. He's putting up Carey Price-esque international numbers right now. How has he done in Game 7s in the NHL playoffs, Game 6s in the NHL playoffs? That's going to be the biggest difference. Dylan Larkin, in an interview yesterday on TNT, he said, honestly, it's been a long time since I've won something. And I think the same goes for a lot of these guys. And so they're aware of it. They're aware that, and that's the thing, is the hunger is really working for those guys, and the tight bond those guys have from the U.S. Men's National Development Program. A lot of these U.S. players seem to be very close, but that's the biggest tell story here, Jeff. I think that when you look at the storyline and when you look at this, you talk about Jordan Binnington being a factor. The last time Team USA beat Canada in an international men's best-on-best competition, do you remember when that was? It was the round robin game in Vancouver 2010 Olympics. In the championship game, Sidney Crosby golden goal against Ryan Miller to end the game in overtime. So everybody that, and I want to go on record and say this, because you guys, there's no point in me hiding that I'm a fan. There's no point in hiding that I've got a lot more stats and stuff to back that up that I'm a fan. There's no point in me hiding that. But one thing I will say is that when you look at some of this stuff right now and some of the history, the big game players, the big game competition definitely favors Team Canada. And I think that when you look at social media right now, it actually brings a smile to my face to see all these people from different networks, betting people, sports people, just casual sports fans alone, especially because the NBA All-Star was such an absolute disaster. How many people tuned in? Yeah, I've had people, saying stuff to me about Canada losing. People are excited. You know what? It makes me happy, Jeff. so many people being prideful of America's win over Canada Saturday night, being happy about how good those fights were off the drop of the puck. It's good for the game that I love. It's good for the game I do a lot of work in. But that was only the round robin game. This is the game that matters the most.
So let's take it to the next level. How do I look at this? Team USA banged up the Kachuk brothers, McAvoy, coming off a loss. As you said, hey, we did what we had to do to get to this point. Canada did what they had to do, and I said to you, game one, if it wasn't for a couple of those stops Binnington had in overtime, you wouldn't have got that extra point, you know? Yeah. And so you did what you had to do here. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. So take it from both sides' perspective. USA loses tomorrow. It's going to be, hey, we were really banged up. We had a great show, and don't worry, we'll get you, or we'll be ready for you next year in the Olympics. From a Canada standpoint, a loss here, how's the nation take it versus obviously a win? I mean, you won the tournament that you were basically co-favorites with the USA. If you had a choice, Andrew, either win Thursday night or win the gold, you only could win one of them. You as a fan, what would you want, and what does the nation want?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, I feel like the recency bias would get me to say this tournament. But you're talking about this or the Olympics, right? I think overall the Olympics is a bigger achievement. I have to say that, just because you do have to go through more opponents. Let's not forget a guy that got interviewed yesterday during the American game, a guy that plays every night in the arena right where you're standing in front of there, David Pastrnak. His team won the World Hockey Championship game last spring. Czech Republic isn't even involved in this tournament. So there's more hoops that you have to jump through in the Olympic tournament here. And as we're talking, the game just moved to a pick at DraftKings where I'm looking. Just flashed to a pick.
They're
pick
listening.
there.
They're
Jeez,
listening.
this is something right now. This is a game for the ages. But I think that one thing I will say is Sweden didn't lose a game in regulation, Jeff. Think about that. They didn't lose a game in regulation, and they're not off to the finals, right? Finland played all right. They put up a fight against Sweden, played well there. They battled for the first half of the American game. And then, the garbage time goals really got against them. And then yesterday against the desperate Canadian team. My point is that this almost feels like it was a Canada versus USA. And when I bought the tickets for the game I'm going to on Thursday, I bought it thinking I was buying a Canada-USA ticket. And I've never had such CLV in my life. I mean, the tickets I bought them because I got a really good price on some really good tickets. Where those tickets, I mean, it's the hottest ticket in town right now. Hottest ticket, it seems like, in North America. But I will have to still say probably the Olympic gold. But this to me feels like more of a rivalry. Like, people say that we don't talk that as sports podcasters and radio people, we don't talk about the women's game enough. So I will say the women have been doing this series. Actually, it was most recently in my hometown in Halifax, a best on best American women's USA versus Canada. And so they're playing in the PWHL, right? And some of these girls are playing in other parts of the world professionally. It's like Champions League. Every month or two, they'll get together and they'll play a few games against each other. Some people are saying, why wasn't this just a Canada-USA best 3 out of 5 or something? That's what we want to see. But I think Sweden and Finland did bring a different element to it. It has been exciting to watch from that perspective. One thing I'm going to throw out there, and I know you and I are going to be doing shows for years to come, so hopefully I'm right when it comes to this take. If USA wins on Thursday and Canada loses, Canada's roster looks 4 to 5 players different, minimal, next year at the Olympics. If Canada wins and USA drops the game, I'm sitting here saying that USA's roster looks maybe 1 to 2 players different as far as next year's Olympics is concerned. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, the goalie situation, some of the depth forwards for Team Canada. I mean, as an East Coaster, I've been kind of disappointed to see the time that Brad Marchand has been getting. You know, he got that new line pairing, so he's been doing well on that with Bennett and Konechny. They're kind of being the tough line of the team. But what do you think about that opinion? Because I do think that if they lose, like, for example, Tom Wilson for the Washington Capitals is Canadian. He scores goals, but he's also one of the top fighters in the league. We could have used him Saturday night off the puck drop. I would have loved to see him versus Brady Tkachuk. That's the thing. I think that Team Canada, Canadian fans are going to be calling for a change of the roster. If USA loses, I can't really see the Americans too upset about the guys that went to play.
No, I mean, it's the perfect storm. You're back here now in the States, in Boston. You knew after Saturday's win in regulation that you would be playing on Thursday. There's nothing more they can do other than go out and try to win in 60 minutes. I'd hate for this to go to overtime. I really, really would. But that's we'll see there. We got a couple minutes before we wrap this up, Andrew. Pluses and minuses. I know you got another day or two to work on this. Any early props out there? Any leans? Anything that you see in the market? Or what are you honestly expecting on Thursday?
You know, I think this is the type of tournament where, or type of game, Jeff, where, you know, I like to try and talk about depth pieces when it's going to be NFL Super Bowl. I'm telling you, the third ranked receiver over on yards, or when it's a regular season NHL game, I'm telling you, we're going to take this guy in the third line to record a point. To me, this game, if you're taking a shots on goal prop, you got to be taking a guy like Nathan McKinnon. You have to be taking Tkachuk. Tkachuk could be out there on one leg on Thursday, and I would be betting his shots on goal prop. He'll be out there buzzing around. He'll be shooting the puck. And one thing about him is he'll shoot from all angles. And that's the thing about him, is he will shoot from all different spots on the ice. I think if I'm looking at a guy to get a point or a guy to get an assist, no pun intended here, I think Braden Point, the guy that's now playing with Connor McDavid, is a really good bet to make. He started the tournament on the third line. John Cooper didn't know who the guy was to play with McDavid. He found the guy to play with McDavid. I think he's going to have an important factor on the team. And for Team USA, this guy is underrated as it gets, and he probably still will be after this game. Jake Gensel, the guy that played next to Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. And this definitely is more of a value type play, Jeff, but I'm shocked. The guy has had a goal against Canada. He had a goal, I believe, against the Finns. He has an assist on the tournament, and he's continuously getting these minus 130 prices just to get a point up here. So you ask yourself, which team do you think will see their depth show up? Because probably if either team gets a goal from their bottom six, that's probably the win right there. If you can get a goal from kind of an unnamed guy. But you saw yesterday, if you were making a same game parlay and you had anything to do with Crosby, McKinnon, or McDavid, you had yourself a good day. But I wouldn't be shocked to see this game have a fast and emotional start, slow down, second period be a little bit dry, and then pick right back up in the third period. So I'm looking forward to hopefully some more action than we saw on Saturday night. Less fisticuffs and more goals, hopefully.
Does the first period over streak end, or is this something where you were playing it the whole tournament? You just got to keep riding it.
I think it will, but at this point, I think that it might take some time to settle in. I don't think we're getting a goal in the first minute or two of this game. I think it might be 4 or 5 minutes in. One team scores, the other team answers again. You know how hard a 2-goal deficit will be in this tournament, in this game? I think if you go down 2 goals, it's going to be very, very tough, especially with a guy like Hellebuck if he's ahead. I think you got to play it. Current number I'm seeing right now is -115. That's about as good as it gets as far as first period overs. And it's not a slight against the goaltending. We're obviously not picking on the goaltending. The game is shaded towards the under. It's more about that fast and emotional start that we're going to see.
I hate to do this to you. I'm going to just put you on the spot here. Final score?
4-3 Canada.
4-3 Canada.
I have to do it, Jeff. I have to. I'm going to the game. I have to. But I think goals. I think we do see goals in this one. It could be, we could land on 6, could land on 7, but I got a real tough time seeing, this game be an absolute snooze fest. I really do.
Talk about the after effect here. Actually, let's take it a step further here. Let's go. I know the NHL is back on Saturday. Some guys didn't play, obviously, in this tournament. Is this a Saturday and Sunday wait and see, or is this something that you think you're going to be able to jump right back in, expect what we saw the last 4 to 6 weeks? A lot of unders, a lot of 5.5s, or were they preparing for this and we're going to start to see some open hockey now?
I think a lot of people are going to be on the same strategy where it's fading teams that have these players on them that we're playing in this tournament. And I think that even for those teams or not for those teams, we're going to see some open ice hockey out of the break. I always say, and I said at the beginning of this tournament, it's easier to have your offensive brain turned on than it is to have your defensive brain turned on. If you're an offensive coach on a team, you're going to like what you see with the pond hockey and the fun style of play these guys put forward on Saturday night and Sunday. But I think the defensive part of your brain is a little bit slow. The turnovers you make might be a little bit slow. The penalty kill might not be as good as what it was when you're watching film every day and not sipping on drinks in Mexico. So there's going to be things that are a little bit different for some of these teams. But, Jeff, I agree with the public consensus that there's going to be spots to fade some of these teams. Florida, Tampa Bay, New York, some of these teams that have a handful of players on them. Obviously, Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, these teams that have a lot of guys on them from these Four Nations tournaments, they're going to be fatigued. They're going to be mentally drained. They're going to be coming off a high or coming off a low, depending on if they win or lose. Montreal versus Ottawa on Saturday, and this is going to be the last Homer take I'm going to give you of the day because I'm going to turn into Homer Simpson here. Montreal plays Ottawa Saturday night. Cole Caulfield snubbed from Team USA. Stay with me. Suzuki snubbed from Team Canada. On Ottawa, you got Brady Tkachuk. You had one of the defensemen. You got some younger guys. To me, this feels like a point where Montreal is thinking, all right, we got some of our top guys well rested. Nick Suzuki is number 4 right now in the Ironman streak in the whole league. I want all the players that are the most well rested. So it's going to be very interesting to see because some teams at this point, Jeff, I'm not saying I'm giving up on the postseason. Some teams are just playing spoiler at this point. They know they're out of the playoffs probably. They're just trying to bug other teams and knock them out of the playoffs.
I'm going to give you one team on the East, one team on the West, a team to add to your portfolio moving forward to either make the playoffs, to get on that run where we could follow them in the next, 6 weeks or so and grab some money on them. Anything you see in the East and the West?
Well, when I look at, look, Jeff, I really do think 14-1 is a really good price on the Avalanche. I'm shocked by that. I really am. I think 14-1 on the Avalanche is a really good price. The way Martin Necas has really fit in with that club, it's been really phenomenal. I still believe in Dallas if we've looked at them at the start of the season. You haven't gotten in on them yet. But Colorado, I think, if you haven't punched that ticket in, 14-1 to win the Stanley Cup, I would take a look at it now. They're probably going to be desperate at the deadline. In the East, I think you have to look at, some of these teams and think to yourself, all right, which team is going to be the difference maker? Which team is going to be able to step up? And I think if we're talking about from a value standpoint, I think Tampa Bay is a team that we need to add to our portfolio, because the number you're going to get on them right now, some people might already have Florida to repeat. Some might have the Maple Leafs for it to finally be their year. But Tampa Bay, I kind of have that feeling. Remember when Golden State were out of the finals for a few years and then they went back and won it again? That kind of gives me that vibe again with them. The final seed, what will the final seed be as far as the playoffs are concerned in the East? And I'm looking here, New York Rangers plus 145 to make the playoffs. They're the closest. Detroit Red Wings plus 250. I don't think I've ever given out a pick like this on the show. And your viewers might think, if they never watched me, what is this guy saying? But I truly believe it's a profitable bet to bet on the Red Wings to miss the playoffs. And if you want to wait to get a better price, you can, but I don't think the better price is going to be there. And I'm not saying you want to hold that. Maybe you can piece it up with something else. I'm not sure if we're even able to do that whatsoever. But let's see if it'll let us do that. No, it won't let us do that. But I was going to try and put two teams together. Red Wings miss, Rangers make, plus 145. The Rangers have played some of the worst hockey they played in the first half of the season. They're still in the mix. They're plus 145 for a reason. Statistically, the Detroit Red Wings have the hardest remaining schedule in the entire NHL, and yet it's them and New York competing for that last playoff spot.
Andrew, the scroller's been going the whole time. Everyone knows on X to follow you at McInnis Picks, at Wager Talk, WT.buzz/AM. Obviously, I wish you nothing but the best. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sneak out and be able to see you and your dad. I hope so. If not, obviously this summer we're going to have to figure something out. But tell everyone what you got backstage at Wager Talk, and as always, safe travels.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And I appreciate you letting me kind of just vent, get excited, and, show a little bit of fandom, because that's what it's all about. I would be wearing my jersey right now if I haven't been wearing it for the last 20 hours, it feels like. But, hey, look, it's quiet time for me at Wager Talk right now during this Four Nations. I've had a handful of plays, not as many as I thought I would, because these games have been so tight. But the second half of the NHL season is here. It's more than that. I guess now we're not second half. It's, the second, fourth almost, it seems like. But I think that right now, if you want to join me for NHL, a code I just got about half an hour ago is NHL30, which will take $50 off a 30-day NHL package. Get to know me. What I'm going to be doing is trimming the fat with the small plays, and it's just going to be big plays only for the most part, because these big plays were absolutely rock solid. 5% plays, crushed it early on in the NHL season. The 4% big bets were good as well. NHL30 is the promo code. Take $50 off, and today is $5 Tuesday. We will have a play up for the championship game for just $5.
Andrew, wish you the best. I am so jealous. I'm so proud of you coming over here to the States. You're witnessing history. As you said, it's $1,000 minimum just to get into the Garden, lower bowl, thousands to be there. Enjoy yourselves. Hope we connect. If not, we will connect soon. Behave yourself, will you?
Thanks so much, Jeff. See you.
Take care. Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk. Go follow him. A couple quick commercials when we come back. Nick Hathcote, Quentin Mills. I don't know if Matt's joining us. I thought he was. Midweek college baseball debuts right now. Stay tuned.
Jared, hey, we're going to need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of the stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
It's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Well, it was brought to my attention that it's not all about Friday Night Lights. It's not all about the weekend. We got through the first weekend of college baseball. There were upsets like in every other sport. Teams that everyone thought were going to be in Omaha that might not have started off too well. I love reading the timelines of everyone following baseball. Wow, this team sucks. They're dead. Scratch them off the list. And of course, we're overreacting here. But what we're going to do here today is we're going to debut the NCAA Insiders midweek baseball. There are games going off today, tomorrow, and before we get back to Friday and Friday Night Lights and the weekend slate, we're blessed and honored to have Mr. Nick Hathcote and Mr. Quentin Mills. What's up, boys?
How's it going, Jeff?
Mr. Dawson, little inaugural midweek show. I like it.
I am fired up. I couldn't be happier. I'm a baseball fanatic here. The first weekend passed. You guys did all your work. You put together this amazing preview, and now the dust has settled, and there was some wins, some losses, some head scratchers. I'm going to start with you, Nick. What shocked you the most? Who were the duds, and who's the ones that like, wow, these guys might be something?
I think I know where QZ knows his dud, so I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to go with Arizona, just because they were my pick to win the Big 12. I kind of thought they'd be better than Oklahoma State. Rough first weekend. The pitching was actually better than I expected, at least the starters. What was the most disappointing part and why I picked them to win the Big 12 was their offense was supposed to be great. They scored 7 runs in 3 games down in Arlington. That is not a great start. I know you can also look at Duke, who Q might talk about. Indiana was another one that I mentioned because 0-4 weekend going down to Arizona is a rough start for a team that should have been probably top 5 in the Big Ten or somewhere around there. So, yeah, I'll say Arizona is probably my most disappointing team of the weekend. But, hey, I'm just happy to have college baseball back, so I'm definitely not complaining.
Q?
Yeah, I'll go with Duke because they were 11th ranked in the country. I think Nick already said it. Indiana, nobody had them, preseason ranked, but I think everybody thought they should have at least came out of the weekend with a win. Same thing with Duke. You're at home. You're not in one of those neutral site tournaments. You're playing Cincinnati, who's middle of the road team, bottom half of the Big 12, bottom third, I think, and you just get embarrassed. Like, you were lucky to win the one in extras. If it wasn't for a walk-off home run in the 12th, you really shouldn't have won that game. For all intents and purposes, they kind of went 0-3 this weekend. They have a good chance to rebound back today, but pretty disappointing, especially being at home. And then Mr. Dawson, I was a little shocked to see UConn not come out with a win this weekend. I obviously gambled them a couple times, thought they had enough juice with Von Eman to win. Pitched great last year, just didn't get it done. It was errors, just lack of timely hitting. They just weren't in sync at any phase of the weekend, and that was pretty tough to watch because they're a team that definitely has the talent to win. They just didn't do it.
And it's funny because we talked about the teams up north here. It's been, let's just say here on sunny Cape Cod, low 20s, winds 40 to 50 miles an hour for the last 3 days, gusts of over 70. Obviously, not outdoor baseball weather. So what do the teams back east do? They go to the warm weather. A team like UConn, if I remember correctly, started with Stetson. We had a
lead.
We were down 5-0. We took a 6-5 lead, and we're doing cartwheels and we're dancing. Yep. And next thing you know, Stetson says, "Hold my beer," and 10-6 final there. So a team like a UConn and other teams that were supposed to be decent that started off shaky in the first weekend. Q, from a coach's perspective, How do you take the midweek and this weekend? How you don't want to panic on the 0-3 start, but you were favored in most of those games. Hey boys, don't worry, we got 50 games left here.
Well, I'll use UConn again. They started poorly last season as well, and then we saw they, if it wasn't for James Tibbs, they're probably making the College World Series. So there's definitely room for time to not panic. You want to figure it out this week. For some people, the solution, like Arizona, is just getting back home, playing in your ballpark, and beating up on a New Mexico team that for all intents and purposes they should beat them by 2 or 3 runs. A UConn, right? So they're not going to play up north. The fact is, you're going to stay in warm weather. It's just regroup mentally, get back in the cages, take some BP fundamentals, ground balls, things like that. Just get back to the basic fundamentals and knock the errors out, and they'll be just fine. I think a lot of it's mental. Once you kind of blow a lead like that, it's tough to come back, but you have to. You got to bounce back. There's 50 more games this season, so there's plenty of time. And for a team like Duke, you gotta hit the ball. I mean, it's just plain and simple. Pitching wasn't the worst until Sunday when they just got obliterated. The offense, they've got to show up. I don't know if they were maybe on a satellite campus for Duke somewhere, but it certainly wasn't in Durham. So they've got to figure that out.
Let's stick to the iron here. Nick, got to give you the stage and the platform here. How'd your balls look?
Looked great. I mean, you talked about Northeast. I mean, they played Hofstra, who was a tournament team last year, so you didn't kind of know what they would bring in. But it was a team that lost some guys, obviously, after that team and after the run they had last year. It's a team that also hadn't practiced outside once, and then you get thrown in the fire, and you're in Knoxville, and you get Liam Doyle game 1, and then it just kind of fell off the rails. Tennessee's probably not a team you want to match up against if you've never been outside yet this year. So that kind of scrambled, but yeah, it looked great. And I'll kind of go, obviously we know the headliners for Tennessee. So just kind of what I was impressed with was the freshmen. There's like 4 big freshmen who are going to play big parts. They went 10 for 14 on the weekend with, I believe, 2 doubles, a home run, 12 RBIs. So that was kind of great to see, because you never know how freshmen are going to come out in the first weekend, if there's going to be jitters, nerves, things like that. So that's kind of like, they outscored them 46-2 on the weekend. So it was a pretty easy weekend, nonchalant, but it was great to see the freshmen. Great to see the freshmen get their work in and actually impress, since they were such big recruits getting on campus.
Hugh, Florida Gators.
I think they ended up with a negative Sierra, which is pretty uncommon. But again, it was against Air Force. I don't want to take anything away from the service, academies. You can't just lighten up on them, because their mentality is second to none in the country. They play hard every day. But at the end of the day, they're getting 1-2-star talent, maybe occasional 3-star who just has his mind set on the military. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, when you're Florida, when you play those teams, when you're Tennessee, against Hofstra, you're there to handle business. And if you don't, it's a loss. But it's good. It's a good tune-up. Florida has Jacksonville tonight. That's a team that you don't want to sleep on. Those Floridian midweek, mid-tier teams are always tough. They catch you sleeping. And some of the Midwest teams that Tennessee plays the same thing. Tennessee Tech, it's good to kind of ramp up against Hofstra and Air Force and do the job that you're supposed to do, kind of get the kinks out, let the bench guys get some reps so they can kind of stay in the swing of things, and you go handle business the rest of the season. So I think all of our teams, even Matt's team, Arkansas, they all handled business for the most part. So that's good to see.
I'm going to go one more spot here, then we're going to go into today and tomorrow's action. Had some pros like this team long-term, have some pros that don't like this team, but they got a stud. And I'm talking about Florida State here, and Jamie came out guns a-blazing. We talk about Friday Night Lights, and for the newbies into college baseball, the Paul Skeens of the world. We always talk about Hagen Smith. Matt's not here today for Arkansas. The list is endless here. Is this just a Florida State Friday Night Lights? Whenever Jamie's pitch, you can't fade him? Or I know how good he is, but is this what we should expect you every Friday night?
Yeah, I think with Jamie Arnold, you're going to get a bad line when it comes to the books, but it's rightfully so. I mean, he's, him and Bremner are 1A, 1B, pitching. And that's just what it's going to be. Outside of that, I thought Vellini and Kress looked pretty good. But again, it's against JMU. JMU lost their best player to Vanderbilt, Mike Mancini. What did they bring back? It's one of those, like, it's a good tune-up for them. They took care of business, and that's all you can ask. I think moving forward, you still err on the side of caution because, again, that offense, what you do versus JMU and what you do versus North Carolina's pitching staff is night and day. And that's where I think Florida State is going to get caught up. They're going to have a great non-conference run. They'll probably still beat up on those mid-majors in Florida just out of sheer talent disparity. But it's the ACC schedule where I think the scores are going to catch up to them. The lack of run support for Jamie Arnold, Crest, Vellini, and those guys. So that's kind of where I'm really interested to see the Florida State team that actually shows up for the season.
Nick?
Yeah, I agree. Their problem's going to be is like their offense looked great this week, but it was another team that wasn't facing fantastic talent. So it's on Fridays. It's can they get away with winning games 3-2 or 3-1? The worry is if Jamie Arnold has an off day, and his off day is giving up 4. So like not like he'll go crazy. But then can you rely on the offense to get those three, especially against the ACC? For like as much as we love playing overs in the ACC and how talented the offenses are, there are some very good Friday night guys in the ACC this year, and then there's like some drop off. So it's going to be more of those games where you have to kind of worry, especially if you're getting, like, say you're getting Jamie Arnold at -180 against like a Clemson. I think that's where you kind of go, hey, like this Clemson team, we can rely on them, or we hope they put up 4 runs, and then Aiden Knack does his thing to slow down Florida State, and maybe Clemson wins it 3-2 or something like that. So I think that's the only worry when it comes to betting on Jamie Arnold, outside of you're going to get -600 on some days.
I'll use a pro. I think he might be the next Jake DeGrom statistically, where you look at him, he's got a stud ERA, but you're like, why is he 6-4? And I think that's the best comp.
I like that comparison, by the way. I got some games up here. I'm looking at Wager Talk right now. I don't want to slow down our production here. Big boy games today. Texas State, Oklahoma State, an overnight number of Oklahoma State -225. Houston, Texas, overnight Texas opened up -250. Houston +200. USC, UC Irvine -160. You can get USC at +135. There's been some movement in some of these games. Oklahoma State got a little money now, 238 at DraftKings. Texas State at 250. A little money in on Irvine -166. I got a bunch of smaller games. Jacksonville, Florida Gulf Coast, Austin Peay, Bellarmine, Lipscomb, Eastern Connecticut, Central Arkansas. Actually, those are basketball. Excuse me. My eyes these are just for show here. Excuse me. I'm like,
roll on the card.
Yeah. Anyways, Q, let's start with you. Midweek, today, tomorrow, what do your eyes see?
Well, I see lines that you may get trapped in. So play with caution because, again, those mid-majors like to make some upsets. We just went live on Dub Club, so I don't want to give our plays away for free today. So I'll kind of give a few teams. So I think Wake Forest is in a good spot to bounce back. Obviously we talked about Arizona and Duke. They need wins. Florida's starting Billy Barlow, who initially started the season with Clemson last year as a starter. Then you look at some of the mentions that you said, Texas State, Oklahoma State. Like Texas State has upset teams, and they're a good ball club. They have seniority. Like they're a team you don't want to sleep on. The same for Jacksonville. Mississippi State playing Southern Miss, like at the Pete. That place is going to be electric to beat an SEC team. And then, out west, St. Mary's, UC Santa Barbara is another great matchup. And then USC, UC Irvine. USC beat them both times last year. Irvine looks really good this year. They scored a lot more than I thought they would this weekend, so that's a team to watch out for. So there's definitely some games that we're going to be on. There's definitely some games that you want to be cautious of, but I think there are some valuable plays on the board today.
Nick?
Yeah, I'll go with a couple. Like Q said, there's a couple might be traps. I would say one of them is going to be that UNCW at Duke. I know a lot of people are going to say like Duke's going to rebound, and they possibly might. But just like Florida is around North Carolina and South Carolina, those midweek games, those are kids that all grew up together playing against each other, whether it's travel ball, high school ball. there's great ball around there, and Wilmington is no joke. That's a very good team. Went 2-2 opening weekend with a tough schedule, and Duke, like as much as they struggled, but the reason is they're replacing 24. There's 24 newcomers on that Duke team, so maybe it's just one of those that maybe they'll be the 11th ranked team 8 weeks from now, but maybe they're just not ready. And then you mentioned it, Texas State. That's one of those. It's a dangerous one. They're playing in Arlington, so neither team's at home. I think Oklahoma State, a lot of people are on, but I would just say be careful because those Sun Belt teams and kind of those teams out east love to use these midweeks as RPI boosters. And like these are some big teams where they might be trying out new lineups. They're probably throwing, a lot of times they'll be throwing freshmen, or the big schools will be throwing like freshmen on a midweek or a new JUCO newcomer to try and kind of see what they have and see what he's like in a like live game setting versus a Sun Belt team or a CAA team who's going to say like, this is a must win type game for us. So they're going to play it like a Friday or Saturday when it comes to bullpen. So I'd say, yes, watch out for the small schools because they've like Tuesdays and Wednesdays are kind of when they bite you.
Any big headliners? We're going to have you back, obviously, here Friday at 11:05 to talk about the Friday night lights and weekends. Q, any headliners that we should be getting antsy for this weekend?
You have another Arlington tournament. I believe it's what Michigan's going to be there. Arkansas,
I think Oregon State
and Oregon State. I think that's another big matchup. I think Irvine plays Texas Tech. So that's a must win for Texas Tech. That's a good win for UC Irvine to beat a Big 12 team on paper. Those are the two off the top of my heads. Then you have the Jacksonville tournament, which is Coastal, Alabama, and two other teams. That should be good ball. So you still have some of these mini tournaments for the next couple weeks until about the 1st of March with varying teams. So there's definitely going to be some good tournaments, some good home series, and we'll battle back and we'll win more units.
Nick, anything else jump out at you for this weekend?
Not for this coming weekend, but I think the biggest story of this past weekend that didn't get talked about enough is the loss of A-Belt for TCU. He was their Friday night guy. I think he was not preseason pitcher of the year, but he was picked to finish second behind Kansas. So I think that's a major loss. TCU looked great this weekend, winning all four against what should be a very solid San Diego team on the road. So that's kind of what you have to look out for, like just storyline wise, is what is TCU going to look like? I believe they were picked to finish 3rd or 4th in the Big 12, but losing your Friday night guy hurts. So it's kind of got time to step up. Cole Klecker, who's been there for 2 years, had a great freshman year and then really struggled last year. So can he bounce back? Because now he's going to have to be a huge piece of that weekend rotation. Caden Parker looked great. He's an ace in waiting, and now it's kind of might be his role. So I think that's the big news, was just TCU losing Ben Abelt's a massive loss.
Guys, the scroller's been going the whole time. Everyone knows where to find you guys, obviously, at NCAA Insiders. Matt, who is not here at Grissom X, Quentin Mills at Q Millie, that's 3 L's, 2 Y's, Nick Hathcote at Nick Hathcote 413. But as we always end this part of the show here, tell them where they can find the written work and any plays that you guys might be offering. Q?
Yeah, collegebaseballinsiders.com. That's where our matchup projection is. All the 2025 stats are being implemented and uploaded today. So it should start to get fairly accurate here in the next week or so as more stats compile. Our preseason guide, if you're still learning some teams, is up there. It's on our Twitter. We just went VIP on our official plays on Dub Club. The link has been tweeted out. Nick and I both tweeted it out. You can find it on our Twitters as well as NCAA Insiders. And then Nick can take it away.
Nick?
Yeah, our Discord is another place where it's any plays we don't make. Feel free to ask us on there. It's completely free to join. We have a good community of people that just love talking college baseball. So that's a great join where, yeah, you literally just ask us any questions. Say like, would you lean this way? Or do you know who's starting this game? And we can give out advice there. So that's another good place to join us. Obviously, our website's first. Dub Club is where you'll get all our plays moving forward. And then the Discord, like I said, is another great resource for all of our listeners.
Gentlemen, it was awesome to start the week Tuesday doing some midweek baseball. This is what the people are asking for, and I couldn't be prouder to have you guys here, not just on Tuesdays now, at around 10:50, but on Fridays at 11:05. Best of luck through the midweek, and we'll catch up to both of you on Friday. How's that?
Sounds
Absolutely.
good.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Take care, guys. Go follow Nick Hathcote at nhathcote413. Quentin Mills at Q Millie. That's 3 L's, 2 Y's. Go check them out on the Dub Club as well to get their plays. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned. What a way to start the week here. Andrew McInnis on his way to Boston for the Four Nations Championship game between USA and Canada. And as we were talking live, people were listening. DraftKings, I know, is listening. That line goes to right now almost a pick 'em. So money coming in on Canada, under over of 5.5. First period over, -115. The first period over has come in every game of the tournament. So buyer beware on this one there. And then, of course, the NCAA Insiders, Quentin Mills, Nick Hathcote come in to talk about what happened over the weekend and to talk about some games today and tomorrow and to get you set up for the weekend here. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., Brady Cannon back PGA in Mexico. We'll talk about Ludwig Aberg. Big come from behind win on this past weekend as Maverick McNeely was having a round of his life, I think -8 or 9 for the round. But Oberg came from downtown to catch him at the wire there. And then at 5 o'clock, myself and Riley Magnuson will be back for the closing bell. Everyone, it's standing room only here. I couldn't be prouder for everyone here watching. If you're not a part of our YouTube channel, jump on over to East Coast Sports Investors on YouTube. Subscribe, it's free. When you come on back to Twitter, X, wherever you're watching the show, follow us at EC Sports Invest. We'll follow you back. Guys, have an amazing day, and we will see you soon.